This is good. Usually, quality. J, yes. The way is like this.
Country Malaysia.
Yeah, country. At University of Malaya.
Yes.
Yeah. Why? Oh. It's science. That's right. Yes, science. A. Malaysia.
That's correct.
Yes.
Hello chị ạ. Vâng. Em là phòng F đây. Ok.
What's the problem with the projector?
Oh.
Yeah, I click it, but it doesn't.
Wait.
I click it so many times. We don't have guys from remote control. We can just use the internet one method.
Yeah, and now even.
Why you start with the projector? Because I click it so many times. It doesn't start.
Let me try.
Just a
You presenting?
Yeah.
Yes. But it's different university.
Yes.
At the University of Technology. It's this.
No, she's registered, I guess.
Yes.
No.
Oh, it's on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chị xem mọi em cái loa
Thank
nữa.
you. It's fine. It's fine.
Oh, the speaker doesn't work.
Ah,
Vâng. Em đang định remove để ấy lại. Loa bật Bluetooth rồi nhỉ? Where's some? Can me the mic? Hello. Okay. Okay. The speaker works.
okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now here's sounds mic if you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Osvaldo, can we start? Okay. Okay, let me check. Okay, thank you for coming to the session of virtual reality. Can you? Okay. The first paper that we present today
You have to use the microphone. We don't hear you. Hey, people, we're starting the session.
Do you hear me?
No.
No? So the first paper is exploring the metaverse, opportunity for tourism and territorial development. And the authors are Damiano Perro, Osvaldo Gervasi, Sofia Rita Di Blasi, and Fabio Forlani. Okay, let's start the presentation. In this paper, we analyze the potential of virtual reality and the modern computer graphics in order to create a virtual world to improve the capacity of the tourism in the region of Assisi in Umbria, Italy. We recreated a palace, a central palace in the city, with the help of some softwares like Blender for the reconstruction of the 3D models and Unity 3D for the composition of the scene, and also Unity give us the possibility to extend the environment to create a real software that we can install in smartphone, and also we develop a WebGL application. A very important things that I like to say is that we like to develop softwares that doesn't depend on the operative systems. And we think that this is very important because if we try to create an application that runs on the browser using the WebGL platform, we can deploy the application, the environment, the software to the peoples, and they can run the application with the macOS, Windows, Android, and so on, because it's not related on the operative system of the machine. And we can see in this slide some of the devices that we can use today to explore and use the metaverse. For instance, in the slides, we can see Meta Quest devices, and the prices of these devices are very cheap, in our opinion. Just to know, a few years ago, for instance, 2-3 years ago, we bought an immersive device from another company, and we paid 4,000 euros. So the same quality that we can obtain today is for 500 euros. So these devices are very, very cheap in comparison of the device of a few years ago. And also, the metaverse is a new market, a growing market, and it's very important to highlight the benefits of this type of approaches, because in the metaverse we can create some realistic environment where people can join, can talk together, can explore together. And in particular, in this paper, we focus on the tourism. So the people can have an experience before joining the place in person. So this is very important because in period of COVID-19 we start to develop such systems, and we obtain a final project just a few months ago. And also, these open solutions, in our opinion, can greatly facilitate the digital transition of companies and organizations and the public administration. So the first time that the term metaverse appeared is from the author Neil Stephenson, 1992, in a science fiction novel, Snow Crash. So we just need to say that it's not Meta, the company Meta, that invented the metaverse. This is very important, but the concept of metaverse is much, much older. And in this fiction, the author describes a sort of virtual world where people can join and live together. So the tourism in the metaverse refers to the exploration, the participation in extensive virtual shared environments. And one of the questions that the people ask is if a person view monuments and cities in the metaverse, would they join also in person, or this is a critical point because they already seen the city in the metaverse, so they will not come and will lose money in local? So this is an open question. Okay, for now we don't have the correct solution to this question, but we think that the virtual reality is just an anticipation, can just introduce a place. So when the peoples will come also after visiting the metaverse, in our opinion. So the advent of metaverse has the potential to impact the event industry significantly. We can also deploy events in the metaverse. For instance, in the past years, we saw the parties deployed in the metaverse, and also some words talk about travel in the metaverse, another invention. So the most important characteristics are immersivity. So the user needs to feel completely immersed in the virtual world. Hyperspatiality. In other words, we need to break the limitation of the real world, because the metaverse is it's a virtual environment where we can do everything. Okay, and this is very important to know when we develop such systems. Sustainability, because it's turned out to be particularly full of challenges. So we need to create a metaverse that is cheap in some way. So the peoples need to join the metaverse in a cheap way, for instance, using a low-tier devices. And also the peoples should be able to move between the metaverse. And we try to take all these points into account for developing the metaverse that we propose for Assisi. And also we need to take into account the scalability, in other words, the ability to manage multiple users and multiple mode of interaction. So we use, as said, Blender and Unity. Unity is Blender is open source. Unity is not an open source software, but is free for project with a billing under or equal to $2,000. And also the choice of Unity is very important, because with Unity we can develop softwares that can run also in low-tier devices. The competitors would be a real engine focused on high-end devices. And also we use only other open source softwares like GIMP for the creation of textures and high resolution photographs. To validate the metaverse that we propose, we organized an experience with students, and we provided to the students a questionnaire. the experience is composed by 3 different tasks. The first one use the EVR, the immersive virtual reality experience, that use the MetaQuest 3, okay, the headset, the head-mounted display. The next one is the virtual reality experience that the students test the system with a notebook and using the system and using the display of the monitors. And the first one is a mixed reality experience that they join using a smartphone and a camera, analyzing the system with the smartphone. Okay, so 3 different tests that we analyze in the questionnaire. Okay, so here we can see some figures that are shown the developed environment. And the first figure on the top left, we can see the internal place of the Palazzo Bernabei, because it's a school also an historical palace, but it's also a school for students. And we can see the reconstruction of the environment and the UI control buttons for the web browser. And on the top right, we can see the reconstruction of an external place of Palazzo Bernabei, and a very difficult part of the palazzo, because we need to use some advanced techniques like the laser scanners to reconstruct the model in Blender, scanning with a laser that that raycast some point that the software recognize and reconstruct the model, because it's too hard to reconstruct this type of mesh manually. Here we can see some other part of the internal environment, and in this case we use the photogrammetry. So we use an artificial intelligence that is fed with a pool of images that we shot these images inside the palace, and we reconstruct the internal mesh of the environment using the photogrammetry. And here we can see the result. Let's see. Okay. This is the exterior part of the palace. And we need to think about this project as a creation of an environment that needs to facilitate the tourism. Or in another way, the peoples see the palace before joining in Assisi. Okay, so we can go inside. This is the main hall of the palace. We taken into account the limitation of the MetaQuest 3. The official documentation provides us some numbers. For instance, there are some variables that we need to take into account: the maximum number of polygons, the maximum number of triangles that we can have in the sheen. And we try to respect all these parameters in order to have an environment that can run smoothly. Next, we can move to the exterior part. The landscape is reconstructed using a skybox. In other words, an image that is expanded in some way in an hemisphere around the user. So the user see the landscape and thinks that it's an infinite terrain, but it's not an infinite terrain. And we use some models of houses for the bottom part that we replicate, rotating the houses on the landscape. Next, we can move to the bottom part of the place. This room was reconstructed using also the photogrammetry to take into account the measure, the length of the walls. Now we can join the room where students study. Okay. And okay, that's all for this slide. So after the experience, the EVR experience, the VR experience, and the MR experience, we provide a questionnaire to the students. A questionnaire consists of 10 questions. So as we can see, the first 2 questions are related to understand some basic characteristics of the person, and the next 8 questions ask the feelings, the judgments on the quality of the experience. We use a Likert scale, and we use the SUS, the System Usability Scale, to have a questionnaire that uses standard questions to validate the software usability. All the participants are adults because they are students at the university. So in the figure, we can see that the EVR, in this figure, we collected for example, in this figure, we can see for the quality of the experience, the number of people that provide us a score like 5. Okay, this means that the 60% of the students that tested the EVR provide us a score like 5, and 25% a score like 4. So the result shows that the EVR is preferred by users. The immersive virtual reality, it's a very strong experience, and they like it so much, and received the higher number of 5 of 5 ratings. So the mixed reality is at the second place, and we are very happy about that, because the mixed reality is in our opinion, the cheapest option that we can use to develop this application, because everyone got a smartphone already, and we don't need to buy headset, mounted display, and so on. We already have the hardware. And the virtual reality is at the bottom of the chart, because they also used virtual reality in the past, playing games and using, for example, PlayStation, Xbox, and so on. They already known about virtual reality, and probably it's not so special for them. The immersive virtual reality was an incredible experience for them. And finally, we want to say a few words about the feeling that they feels. In particular, we discovered that the immersive virtual reality can provide nausea to a little percentage of people, but it's very important to point out that an immersive world that we saw at 360 degrees, it's a very strong experience. And we need to think about that, because if we develop a system where we can move, we can run, okay, we need to slow down the speed of the simulation, because if we move too fast, the people can feel bad situation. Okay, so it's important to take into account this part. in contrast to that, mixed reality did not create a sense of disorientation to people. So, in conclusion, this work highlights an open source approach to create environment, immersive virtual reality, and with mixed reality technologies. And we obtained positive judgments from the students that participated to the questionnaires. So, and also, in our opinion, it's very important to emphasize the relevance of open standards and open source software in this context. So, thank you.
Can you hear me? I don't know if it's on the internet. Or do I need to microphone? Can I just do this?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can do this.
Thank you.
So everybody can hear.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question that is more theoretical about the metaverse. I know that this term is quite new. It has been maybe used by researchers since a couple of years ago, and it has even been coined by someone that is not a researcher. It's from a book that you mentioned, by the way. But I know that from some author, I read a bit about that, but even if it's not my specialty, that there is also 2 points that you didn't mention. You mentioned the other one, that would make the metaverse a metaverse. The first point is decentralization. No one should be able to own the metaverse as a whole. And there are some experience existing today about that, like Mana or Sandbox. I'm thinking of some stuff like that. And the second point, according to them again, is virtual property. You should be able to own the object and the stuff that you find in the metaverse. And what are connecting these 2 points are non-fungible tokens through blockchain technologies. So what you did, I like it, but it looks more like VRs and metaverse, according to this author. So I just want to know about that, about your point of view.
Yes, thank you for your question. So the first one, I want to answer to the second question first. We didn't provide to users non-fungible tokens because they don't own objects inside the metaverse that we create. The non-fungible tokens are very important for the creation of metaverse because if you, for instance, buy a pair of glasses, the glasses will be always yours, and you can move between metaverse and so on. And the data, a commercial, but we didn't deploy a commercial metaverse. It's just an environment that you can join to view and experience the palace. So this is the first part. And we talk this environment like metaverse because it's a multiplayer. The more people can join in, but it's very important to say that metaverse is something new just for the newspapers because we have video games for like 20 years and video games like, for instance, World of Warcraft, Guild Wars, the MMO RPG, they are all metaverses, but we didn't talk about them with the keywords metaverse. Okay, in recent days we think about metaverse just because we have an head-mounted display. This is just the description of the new keywords, okay? But it's commonly correct to say that the metaverse wasn't born 2 years ago.
If I add a comment, I think that Facebook made an impressive spread to this concept, but they focus are commercial in the sense they plan to sell objects in the metaverse. So in the sense, NFT is crucial, of course. I agree with that. But in our approach, we are thinking to an open metaverse. where people can interact and experience things that in the real world sometimes are even unfeasible. So if you think about the concept, it's easy to understand that in the metaverse we can overcome some limitation we have in the real world. But let's say at the end there are other type of limitations because our mind cannot be immersed for long time in this environment. Otherwise, we are really losing contact with the reality. There are not so many studies, clinical studies in this sense, but it appears clear that after half an hour, after 1 hour, you are immersed in the metaverse. You suffer some neurological or physical stuff. So, however, thanks for the comment.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, this was on my note to ask about this virtual fatigue that you mentioned, like 20 minutes. I think this is really like knowing that so important. It's so important creating applications that this means that applications that could be or should be just used for 20 minutes or so. Otherwise, people will be experiencing difficulties. So knowing this is so important, I think. But I don't know how to overcome this. So my question is, one hand is technical. I don't know why did you use Blender and Unity. So why was this necessary? Why one and the other one? Why Unity was not enough? So just a technical question. And the other one. Maybe interesting to think, you only had 16 people and probably they were the same age, so you probably want more than that to make really conclusions. So it would be good to say these conclusions are based on only 16 people. And so the interesting thing would be to see the generational, when the generational change happens, because you report about no difficulty in orienting in this environment. But when we test, we experience like a big difference between children, young adults, and then my age, where people, the majority of people have problems. So I would be interested in like who the focus of your applications would be. So more whether a design would mean we want to attract more younger people, and how is an application different than in case you are talking with adults, especially for tourism, where adults are paying more money to go somewhere and children less. So maybe how does this affect?
Okay.
I don't know, a long talk for a short question probably. You can comment on.
Yes, thank you. Thank you
But I'm
for your
excited
question.
about your work, really. And just to mention something else, so I'm working on this GeoGames area, so I would like to invite you to contribute to the journal that I'm editing. I will write an email to you, and maybe we have 2 journals coming up, and adding more users for a journal publication would be really interesting research if you are willing to contribute to the community.
Thank you. Thank you. So the first question is why we use the Unity and Blender. The answer is that Blender can be used to develop mesh models, 3D models, and the 3D models can be exported in OBJ format or FBX, for instance. And next, we can compose the scene with Unity. So with Unity, you cannot create the meshes, the objects. You can Unity provides you the possibility to use just primitive objects like cube, circle, balls,
The
cone.
realism you're obtaining using only Unity is not comparable.
No.
Resolution.
It's impossible to use only
We
Unity.
reach an high level of detail.
Yes, very.
Unity-
Of course, it's a lot of work, but
Yes.
Unity provides
Grammetry.
you only the primitive.
So,
Unity provides you only the primitive objects, and you cannot manipulate the polygons. Okay, so and also we choose Unity because it's a software that can can export the project on low tier devices like mobile phones, notebook without high GPU power, and so on. The alternative could be a real engine, but a real require an high-end device with an NVIDIA or a dedicated graphic card that it's out of focus for our project. We have only 16 people, but we tried so hard to find people to test the application, because we also organize a few days of test in Assisi, and we will expand the research in future. The difficulty orientating inside the environment, yes, this is true, and we find a possible solution in alternative to move in the virtual environment. We think that we can freely. We think that we can put some spawn points, some teleporting points. So, for instance, using a remote controller or a joystick, you should choose 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just teleporting slowly in the place. And next, you view. That's the our
That's nice.
response.
I like this. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can have, of course, for tourism, this is really interesting because you can imagine, okay, like a flying, like a Harry Potter kind of teleporting.
Or like a transition that.
Yes, a building or a street or outside, inside, and then you can have options what you want to see. And I like that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's really nice work and exciting. Yeah. Here is another.
A question.
Hi.
Hello.
It's very nice effort of you, especially in Italy. Italy well known robotics. Very interesting inheritance these days. But I agree with you, my colleague. I think it's more VR than metaverse. What makes metaverse different is that you should make your own story. And I don't think you did provide the ability for the users to make their own stories and to make things.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the first step toward metaverse, but actually it's more VR. It's even not augmented reality, right? No.
VR is not. No, I didn't get the second.
Focus on VR.
If it's a
instead
VR
of,
or augmented.
AI.
Yeah.
Augmented.
So, to the first question, yes, we didn't provide to the user the ability to create your own story, because this is not, in our opinion, the focus of our project. The peoples join the place to view the place before joining in person. So,
So it is VR.
Yes,
it's
but
not-
these are saying that it's more virtual reality than metaverse. Metaverse should be more interactive in the sense.
yes, but what is real? The metaverse is. I don't think that it's. We have already
No,
a
there is
definition that the metaverse is.
We didn't have
Yeah.
in this work because
Yeah.
we use some hardware that was provided by an association, and the story behind is that a young student died, and the family want to create in this structure an environment where the other students can exploit the art for tourism, essentially. And the school that is hosted in this building is the Economy of Tourism. It's one of the few existing in Italy. And the idea is to prepare the students to be professional in the field of tourism. So the idea is to organize an environment where guys can go using the MetaQuest, exploit virtual worlds in general, but or metaverses. But in our case, we try to reconstruct the environment itself. So at the moment, there are no stories inside this environment because we spent a lot of time building this environment. And this is the first part of the work, of course. And then we have to extend in order to allow them to exploit really mainly focused on the tourism aspect. So, for example, the, the question Damiano poses initially, is useful or not to have such an environment to be exploited from remote? So maybe a substitute to come really in the place. It is an open question. Our intention is to provide some insights, some numbers that demonstrate to public administration and companies that if they invest in this field, it's yeah, profitable and they can get to the return of investment quickly. The technology we use require time, but are not expensive per se. The problem is that this type of technology, historically, we are in the field more than 20 years, and we often see things that happen, reach the maximum, and suddenly go down. So even Facebook, when they announce and make the first announcement of Metaverse, they had promised to hire 50,000 developers in Europe. After 1 year, they fired 70,000 developers, saying that their time are not yet measured for this type. So this is the mess in this environment. There are very good technology, but there is no market. So companies are not able to survive. They can survive for 1 year because they got some financial, but then it's very, very difficult to resist. So this is the hidden.
It's a challenge. As far as I know, in China they did, but they were supported by the government.
Yeah.
It's something for one of their models using the metaverse. For metaverse, you can create your own environment. You can pick your colleagues, the person who will talk to you, talking about the history. So this is which makes the metaverse so different than VR. In augmented reality, you know, you put yourself in the environment, but with virtual reality, it's just to go through the place and see if you are looking at as if you are there.
Yeah, but to answer to your observation, you are right, maybe, in the sense that we were not able to demonstrate this second part. But the idea is that one. For example, this building is located just in front of St. Francis Basilica in Assisi. There is a monument, absolutely gorgeous. So, where inside the basilica, the monks are selling objects. So, we can extend this concept and implement the metaverse where they can sell, even virtually, apart from in the real shop. So, it's quite easy, but the problem is that to transmit these ideas to people in order to convince them to make the investment necessary. And they have to maintain also because this technology evolves very rapidly with the hardware. So the work we have done, probably in 6 months, required to be revised in some sense. At least to recompile, if you do not go into it.
It's very good step. This is the future of tourism, especially for elderly people, for handicaps. They should know if they go there, they can manage to walk inside this area, to see it. If they cannot, at least they can see, they feel themselves that area. It's very interesting. Yes.
We made a similar experience using AR, but in a different field, for example, for teaching. And we have a very good experience in that we published. But of course, this is the key. Okay, combining virtual reality, augmented reality, standard reality. This is the real future. For example, the efforts I mentioned before regarding using the headset, manifest. It depends also what you are doing. If you are watching a concert, maybe you can stay for hours without having disturbed because you are completely immersed. You don't need.
Because there is this application ocean, the ocean, I think it's Microsoft, where it's kind of, you get immersed in the ocean, you see all the animals. I think you can do this forever.
Yeah.
With glasses.
Because you are relaxed.
Yeah, you're relaxed.
But if you have to move, to be attentive
Yeah.
to the step or
Yes.
the wall, this make you
Yeah.
frustrated.
Yeah.
So, of course.
I think here we need more research to understand what makes this, what does it mean, the fatigue? Why one environment allows you to get immersed, super immersed for like 2
Yeah.
hours without a problem, like a game or the ocean, and then application like this, it doesn't. What's the difference? Like,
Probably
what-
the trick
you know,
is to force some relief after an effort.
Yeah,
So don't allow them to continue
Yeah,
with
yeah,
this stimulation.
yeah.
Yeah.
maybe. So I
Yeah.
think this is a really great research question as
Yeah.
well. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think that we should move to the next presentation because otherwise it's too late. The next presentation is 3D human model reconstruction based on implicit representation, and the author is Jiaqing Wang. Yes, please. Come see. Do you have a PowerPoint or a PDF? That, can you
Yeah, the problem is that we have the
can you give
we
me
broadcast on YouTube, but
can you give me the PDF in some way?
Yeah. No.
I just need to. Can you put inside?
PDF.
What do you want? If you want the PDF, if you want the PowerPoint, it's okay. Can I attach?
It's all PDF.
You can put it here. Okay, thank you. Can you eject the device? This button. The eject button. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Just a moment. This one? Just a moment. Sorry. Maybe have a software 2%. No. Okay.
I used to change a PDF file. Okay, I memorize again.
Do you want the pen drive?
Okay, there's this book. So crash where it mentions and defines numbers. But then there is a Facebook a vision of it, which takes the word and creates a vision. And then maybe some other people are using it now because it became popular and it's easier to publish metaverse in the word. But you're not really it's a trend like smart cities or 15-minute city or games, something becomes a trend,
please,
sustainability. Yeah.
It's used, but
Yeah.
it's not.
But it also transforms, it's like it gets from still an initial idea to execution, and we don't understand how this transformation happened. Now, is this a metaverse or it's not metaverse, right? This is actually not metaverse in the book. What Facebook? No, it's people are using metaverse.
Even in digital things, they are trying to use it.
Yeah.
People suffer from tears. Thank you very much.
Okay, you can start, please. Yes, please. So we start this presentation. Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Good morning, everyone. Today I want to represent our team to present the topic called 3D human model reconstruction based on the implicit representation. Here the outline of my presentation. So I quickly go to the introduction part. As you see the rise of metaverse, the metaverse increase the discussion of virtual worlds and lead to the growing interest in the technology of the reconstructing 3D models, and it makes the virtual and real world blurs. So the goal of metaverse to create the same place as the real world, so that the virtual world can close to our life and feel more immersive. There are many applications of the metaverse, uh, as well as the 3D human models, like web-based video game, virtual reality, movie, medical training, etc. Luckily, right now, the development of deep learning, like the reconstruction of 3D human models, enhance the related and reduce the cost. Into there are two scanning techniques used for 3D human models, like scanning booth or handheld scanner. For the first one, scanning booth, with the large with the large installation, which for multi people stand in the booth, or smaller one for single version. And during the scanning process, one should be not blink or move to keep the accurate rate of the result. Even this scanning booth had the high accuracy, but it also have the problem with the price. Like it's very expensive and less accessible. For the second one, handheld scanner is a portable technique used for detailed parts of the body, and this one it requires stable handling to avoid the distortion, and it's I usually use in the medical application to assess the skin condition and so on. And we see some problem of the some technique related to 3D human model, like it's very high cost and time processing. Like traditional 3D human model creation method is require professional equipment, also intense labor. And the limitation of current model, like it relates on the large datasets and advanced hardware. It's not accessible for individual and small enterprise. So we think to reconstruct a 3D human model from a single image with low cost and simple ways. From the goal, we go to related work. Um, right now, there are a primary representation of 3D models, include explicit representation and implicit representation. For the explicit representation, there are three basic techniques like box cell, point clouds, or polygon mask. For the fourth tail, it represents 3D models at the grid qubits. It's similar how pixel is representing 2D image. And for point cloud, it's representing the models at a set of data point. It's more flexible but it's less dense. And the last one, polygon mask, represent the surface with vertices and face, providing the high detail and realism. So the explicit representation can basically define the geometry and a famous classical method in the explicit called skin multiversion linears. It defines the human body with a mass of vertices and face, and it's used parameter to control the body shape and face. Here is one of the deep learning model used for explicit representation. It's called tap-to-tap. The input image in this model go to the UV transformer to map the 3D coordinate of the model to 2D planes. And then it go to UV ungrab to represent the surface texture of the 3D model into 2D planes. And then the outputs from the UV ungrab go to the generator to predict the 3D shape and structure to further the 3D geometry. And the last step is discriminator to evaluate the realism of the generated 3D models. In this study, we focus on implicit representation. So I will present more detail about implicit representation, also some previous model related to implicit representation. Into there are two basic implicit representation called occupancy function and side distance function. For occupancy function, it shows the presence and absence of an object in the space, whether that's point inside or outside of the object. And the side distance function is measure the distance from any point to the surface, to the nearest point of the object surface. So we can see the occupancy function provide the binary indication, like inside or outside of the object in the space. While the side distance function, the distance function is the coordinate measure distance to the object surface. And I'm going to introduce the previous deep learning method for implicit representation. It's called pixels alias implicit function. With the input image, it's going to two encoder, and the first encoder called filter vectors, process with filter vector, and the second encoder handle with the filter colors. So the filter vector do with surface reconstruction. To make the details of the geometry, and the second one, filter vector here, predict the color values of each point on the 3D surface. So the output, we have two mass information attractor like geometry and texture models. And one interesting model for implicit representation I want to share, like it's called implicit online representation AD. This is the object model of the previous one. and it do with a multi-level. It can learn the low and the high resolution of the image to reconstruct the high quality of 3D models based on the multi-layer perceptron. It learn the geometry information, and the output like cost estimate here represent for cost estimates called pixelized implicit function. And the second one with high resolution, it do with 5 levels. So with this work, they have the low resolution observation determine the point in or outside of the surface, and high resolution opacity focus more on the colors. From the previous work, we propose a new model. This model combines some advanced technique with the pixel analyzed implicit representation with attention module and mask Q to enhance the 3D reconstruction human models. So at the first step, the begin processing do with the rendering input image. So we can analyze the input image with multi-views like front and back of the version views. And then the input image go to UV map to unwrap the input points. And then the input dataset go to downsampling with multi-level, low resolution and high resolution. To do with multi-level, we do with 3 levels, like color level, file level, and color level, RGB levels. To rendering the input image, we this is the construction we design into extract filter in render with the convolution. It follows some convolution, back normalization, reloose, and especially with hourglass and attention. We will show you the attention and hourglass module in the next slide. But here is the general construction, our design in the to render the input image. This step. And for the second UV map, to unwrap the surface texture 3D model onto 2D plane, we use this framework. We also follow with some convolution reloose techniques. It can extract the textures in the input image. And here is the detail of the hourglass network. The example for 2 stacks of hourglass network, it deals with 2 levels scales. In core and file level, we use the same construction, but the difference of neutral network and the level of hourglass, it can be 2, 4, or 6. Make the outside, the outputs of core and file level different. And the attention mechanics we apply in our methods is very hard to improve the performance of 3D human model. It had to enhance the filter extraction by assigning different wire to channel. And here is the detail for attention block. The input go to the global average pooling to average the information from the input filters and fully connected layer to learn the wise. As I mentioned before, we try with low and high resolution to do with different levels. Core level, file level, or SOTP. Maybe less. And the difference of the neural network and how glass is make the output of core level, file level, or RGB level difference. At the core level, is had to learn the texture or the step of the input information, but it lack the finer details. So in the file level, is one of when we redefine the texture and support more the finer details. And the last one level have to analyze the color information from the data sets. So it make the models high performance than before. To consider the performance of our work, we use the ethane binary cross entropy. And here is the formula for this cross entropy. And we use two evaluation methods, like point to survey and chamfer distance to evaluate our work. For point to survey is consider the shortest point between the point and the surface, and chamfer distance calculate the average predict point with the set of the graph tool. And we go to the experiment result. Here is the data set we use. We use the render people data sets with training and setting numbers and tails. And the environment we use is the work I mentioned in this table. And here is the result. We try with different steps. How glass and neural network, like step 4 and 4 neural network, or step 6 step how glass and 2 neural net, and we see all modification had the better performance than a baseline method. And we also see when we add the attention in the clearly aligned implicit representation, the performance of the model become better. And here is the approach for the adding attention mechanism. Here is the visualization of our work compared with the baseline. As you see, the hands of the baseline compared with the input is quite inconsistent in the detail and position compared with the input. And the back and the shoulders is inaccurate in the texture and geometry. And at the fit, we see the problem with the step and the alignments of the fish in the baseline. But when we modify the number of glass house with 6 and neural net with 2, we see the improvements. The hands become more accurately positioned, and the detail in the finger and hand staff, as well as for the back and the shoulder. is the texture become better, and the fish is more precisely defined. Similar, when we apply the attention, we see the visualization of our model compared with Baylor slide is more accurate. So I go to the last one, the conclusion. And you see, we wrote out the new models, include the Howard network with multi-layer perceptron to reconstruction 3D model, and the performance of attention when applied to the baseline model is also become the rich information, and performance become more accurate. Even our performance, our model performance have a good result, but we still have see some view that we can improve in the future, like complex patterns on the clothes or the Porter chain, which it will affect the reconstruction effects. So it's all of our work in this study. Thank you for your attention.
I'm curious, is this your PhD work?
Yeah.
What are the next steps that you plan on doing?
Actually, we want to try with different data sets. Sorry. Actually, we want to try with different data sets with more complex patterns. First, to see whether the data is our proposed model can better perform with others data sets. Yeah.
And do you, I'm curious about the format. Do you plan on importing in other software? Like, is it easy to import in Blender or Unity, or are you thinking about that, or not at all?
Actually, we don't have.
Because the idea of creating 3D objects is to import them into either metaverse or maybe not, I don't know, but or Blender, Unity. So I would be curious about the formats and the ability for you to use those objects, 3D objects in maybe games or other platforms.
Okay, I will
Explore that.
remember your thinking and your direction to think about our work. But currently, we still don't have importance.
Well, congratulations for your great work. So I enjoyed the presentation very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next, it's a remote presentation, assessment contribution of an architectural indoor healthy status via biosensors, particles, spatial simulations.
Stelios.
The authors is Stelios, and the co-author is
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
It's okay
good.
now. Do you see my?
Yeah, we can see your screen. So if you want, you can start your presentation.
It's okay. Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning from Greece. Glad to be with you. My name is Stelios Kouzeleas. I am assistant professor at the Department of Interior Architecture. I am architect, and the International Hellenic University in Greece. With my colleague Ioannis Tsolakidis, who is a survival engineering expert in 3D.js, and I'm working specialized in digital spatial representations. So I'm going to present you this paper, assessing the contribution of architectural indoor healthy status via biosensors part of spatial simulation. So what is about? Is about a description. Is about a description of a digital simulation multi-system. Is a theoretical, for instance, description of indoor and health emissions in a multi-simulation environment. The aim is to record, manage, evaluate, simulate, and communicate the health status via unhealthy emissions of a room or a building in a simple way for the non-expert habitant. The objectives, among the objectives, is to define and prepare the technical conditions and requirements for future implementation of a 3D spatial air quality parameter simulation. We used four combined simulation methods that I will explain you later. And the result is the simulation multisystem that will allow both the non-expert habitant and the political decision makers to evaluate an indoor environment hygienically by taking appropriate actions. So the air quality is a significant factor for the human health, provoking significant health effects such as particulates, biological molecules, harmful gases, smoke, dust, soot, odors, etc. In the literature, they called this kind of things particulate matter. Particulate matter can cause mortality, illness, and harm. On the other hand, they are volatile organic compounds, which are the most dangerous pollutants for the human health, such as paints, carpets, woods, products, furniture, cleaning agents. That can provoke syndromes, illness, chemical sensitivities, respiratory disease, even heart attacks disease. On the other hand, we have a system of biosensors that can now detect harmful gases, particulate matters, and volatile organic compounds. So we found that we have a theoretical development of a spatial air quality emission simulation system in 2D and 3D environment that I will explain you right away. And with significant social impacts, for example, in hospitals, we can use it in schools for children, etc. There are many objectives. The first one is to detect, capture, and manage all air pollutant emissions inside the building. We, of course, a low-cost biosensors network. Visualize air pollution emission in four ways: 2D, CAD, GIS, VR, and AR that I will explain you right away. Contribute to a wireless low-cost biosensors grid creation by air pollution emission measurement. And finally, define and adapt methodology of 2D, 3D effective indoor spatial modeling for various simulation environments with the use of low-cost air pollution representation system. I would say that there are many state-of-the-art issues. The base one, the main one, is the simultaneous 3D modeling emission rates via a nebula representation in 3D point clouds and voxels at the same time in AR, VR conditions. Because we saw in the global literature that other studies simulate in 2D and 3D, but via linear diagrams or 2D spatial forms, and not in 3D nebula representation. It's a method to obtain accurate measurements by proving a connection low-cost sensor to a network. Of course, volumetric built-in modeling technology provide to any user the ability to real-time immersive experience via AR and VR. A significant contribution to a non-expert user for understanding their healthy areas and sensing appropriate actions. A realistic simulation that creates, this is for me very important, it create a common language between the non-expert and the experts, the engineers, ensure the massive pedagogical experience and awareness for a non-expert or even for an academic student. So here we have a scheme about the air quality major studies. On your left, we have studies about the measurement, the detection, and the management of the pollutant emissions. On your right, we have some proposals and implementation of buildings technical design rules, thermal comfort, energy, etc. In the middle, we have the simulation of pollution, the way, the manners of simulation. And we saw that all these kind of studies about the air quality emissions representation is mainly in 2D and 3D linear diagrams to the spatial formal emission rate simulation. So with this method, this work allows a simultaneous 3D building structure modeling with a healthy emission rates via a nebular representation in 3D forms with 3D point cloud and voxels in immersive VR and AR condition. Four main steps in the research methodology. The first one is the biosensors implementation and measurements of air quality parameters. The second one is the way to modelize the geometry, the 3D geometry of buildings and rooms. The third one is to simulate, found the appropriate techniques to simulate these points, these rates, and the final step is to the global spatial simulation in appropriate environment. So the first one, the session implementation, it's about the installation and operation of a network of low-cost sensors. These devices are connected to a network and then can measure basic organic parameters, as we saw before, the particulate matter, the VOC, and even other, let's say, traditional parameters such as the temperature, pressure, humidity, etc. So we have a wireless sensor network um, um, based on a gateway. Gateway is a base station. It's the heart of the wireless network system that can retrieve data um, from an information management system, which is the information management system is actually a web application with the remote control of all these parameters. We can monitor, alarm, of course, retrieve and um, connect, measure appropriate rates. The second one is of the research methodology is the 3D building geometry, which is not always an easy process because there are many communication protocols in it, for formats, techniques, spatial connected devices, etc. Indicatively, uh, I would say that there are many complex 3D modeling techniques. Main one is the constructive solid geometry, actually 3D from point cloud data. Boundary methodologies, surfaces, polygons, NURBS, polylines. Of course, we use also the topology from GIS features, um, appropriate formats of AR and VR via appropriate formats and softwares, VRML, object, etc. And from point clouds and or even an object recognitions from 3D scanning. CAD to VR simulation, it's more easy process. It's about the conversion of the final 3D CAD into create VR format. This VR format is based either on image coming from 3D models or real image superposition. And we superposed on these images multimedia elements in language programming HTML5 and family to make a multimedia, even multimedia format in this VR single image. We use also GIS simulation, mainly the interpolation techniques, in order to find the unknown points between the calculated points. Of course, there are many constraints, such as the internal works, some devices, position, etc. In this point, we take the actual distance and not always the direct, the straight line, which is passed through some devices. And of course, there are many modeling algorithms, which is very technical. It's not. I don't. I will not analyze them, but it mainly based on group points with similar characteristics. Of course, the main AR3 the cloud box simulation. Um, uh, so, so we have the conversion of the building geometry from the point cloud, the voxel collection, and via LiDAR 3D scanning LiDAR technique, um, we can convert this format in a state format in order to be recognized in another 3D CAD simulation system. And of course, we use the appropriate VR head glasses, sensors, smartphone with integrated tracking movement sensor, of course. The air quality 3D point clouds voxel simulation will be almost transparent, as you see on your left photo. This is indicative photo. Theoretically, it's not the issue of the implementation um, of implementation of real implementation, and so there is a space density along visual spatial adjustment and user perception
Sorry,
through
just
this
to
nebular representation.
sorry, Stelios, you have
Yes.
just 1 minute left, okay? 1
Yes,
minute.
yes, I'm finished. So
Thank
main limitation, one characteristic and behavior, it's not always fixed, while the air condition analysis assumed to be fixed in some spaces zones where contaminants movement and concentration are not uniforms, while the study assumed the uniformness of the entire room. But the main advantage is the use of this voxel which is 3D point clouds, which is a powerful tool for accurate particles volumetric simulation. And I would say that it will be impossible with other modeling simulation models. So to conclude, here is a work, a theoretical definition of technical requirements before the future implementation, along a modern accurate air quality particles representation in four simulation environments. Mobile low-cost biosensors for measure air quality parameters. Of course, multi-level simulation system, AR, VR, GIS, and CAD. Significant impact both in scientific and social level. A non-expert apartment occupant or design architecture student awareness, building air quality by creating common communication language with engineers and non-experts. And finally, this simulation contributes to a plan for a social energy and health policy by public authorities. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, we have one question.
Thank you so much. Very interesting presentation. Very useful. I just have one maybe simple question about hand sensors. If you can tell about what kind of hand sensors did you use and how was this useful?
The detectors, you mean the biosensors?
Hand. You had on your slide that you had hand sensors. So I was wondering about what does that mean?
Yes, there are biosensors, low-cost biosensors that we found on market today, and they detect all these particular matters and VOX, and also this all these parameters such as the temperatures and um, all these traditional parameters. We didn't make the implementation yet, but we show that we can use them because they are very low cost, and all these rates we can create with these sensors. We can connect them to information system, a gateway station, in order to have a grid of these rates. So it can be happen, but we are not yet in the phase of implementation. This is
Okay.
to reach the description.
Because the next thing I was going to ask you is where did you place them?
Yeah.
But so this is a concept, is an idea.
Yes, this is a theoretical concept, but we want to in 1 year from now, because we found a project we think that we can implement this.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much.
I
Thanks.
thank you.
So the next paper is sì, solo che non c'è una bellissima okay. So the next paper is integration of an artificial intelligence model into a smartphone Flutter application to solve a live image classification problem, and the presenter is Sergio Tasso from the University of Perugia. Già, solo un momento. Qual è tra questi? Tasso. Okay.
Hi, I'm Sergio Tasso from the University of Perugia. My presentation talk about the integration of an artificial intelligence model into a smartphone Flutter application to solve a classification problem. Questo.
Non è questo?
Mancano un po' di slide, tutte quelle scritte.
Ah, ok. Il file è questo. Cambiamo.
PDF. Sorry. I need my...
Presentiamo dato.
Ok.
Sì, facciamo dato.
Se lo faccio fare PDF?
Sì.
Secondo me è meglio.
Ok. Tranquillo, tranquillo. Non ti preoccupare. Vabbè, andiamo bene, sì. Dai. Ma non vede manco. Ok. PDF.
Va bene? Sì, sì. Sorry. Okay. The aim of this presentation is to use this classification model based on artificial intelligence within a mobile environment. Therefore, we leave out all part of the application that do not deal with this aspect. In fact, we realized the app to organize a artistic tour in Italian Umbria region, but this presentation not cover that aspect here. We use this kind of technologies, Keras libraries with Python, TensorFlow format, Flutter framework, and its Dart language. The classification model uses a common convolution CNN with Keras libraries, and we created also an appropriate data set in which to train the model after. In this case, the data set consists of a set of image of some painting dating back in the history of the Middle Age. It's in the Italian region. The classification model receives as input three maps of sides 255 or 255, one for each of the three RGB color, whose values are normalized because the camera definitions. In output, the model returns an array of decimal values, each of which expresses the probability of belonging to the specific class. At the end of this phase, we have obtained a Keras model of image classification ready to make a possible prediction. But our model is inside the mobile environment, not in the computer. And we must to convert this Keras model into the sensor flow light format .tf light in order to reach a good execution performance on mobile environments. Flutter, widgets are the main element of Flutter application. Widgets are aggregated in the widget tree that identifies the user interface. We combine several complex widgets using many simple ones. For example, the largest container of the custom widget MyFlutter apps is invoked by the function main. The method build returns the widget material app, which has its child custom widget camera screen. And camera screen, this is the code of main MyFlutter app class. Camera screen widget 3 contain camera preview widget that allows the display of the screen when the camera is active. This init camera invokes init controller. Init controller, it invokes the function to capture the frame. It creates the classifier. It invokes the function to load the classifier model. Through the camera function, the camera characteristics, it captures maximum and minimum zoom values and exposure values of the camera. The image analysis function is the most important function of the camera screen widget. In fact, is executed for each frame that the camera view widget captures when the camera is active, of course. The function image analysis calls the function inference camera frame on the object of classification helper, passing the parameter, the frame of the class image in camera image. This is the image analysis function, the most important function of this part of the main. This is the application, but we have the classification model. The classification operation takes a lot of resources to perform. So we separate it from the main environment, running that manages the entire application. The main method launches the execution for the app, within the main isolate, which basically consists of an isolated execution environment similar to the Java thread. To separate the classification operation from the rest, one must
initialize a new isolate in order to classify the frame captured by the camera. In order then for the output of the classifier to be shown on the screen at the end, the classification operation is necessary for the second isolator to communicate its label to the main isolator. In fact, the communication is not one way, it's double way, okay? Because it's not the main, only from the main to the second, but also to the second from the main. This is the communication between isolates. We need send port in main isolate, receive port in the second isolate, and so also in the other way. Is isolate class is the second isolate, in fact, within which to perform the classification operation, and it has associated three fields that are very important to one object of receive port, one object of send port class from the communication, for the communication with the main isolate, and the object class isolate that is the actual second execution environment. Here we have the function, common function. Now I start to create the instance of the class is isolated, that's closer to close, and the very important entry point. Entry point is executed whenever the isolate receives a message from the main isolate, is reactive. And it is responsible for the actual classification of the frame. This is the code. In the opposite side, in the main isolator, we have, for example, other function: load model, load label, init helper. Load model for loading the model into the class available interpreter. Load label to provide the loading of labels stored in the corresponding file .txt, and init helper it take care of initiating the procedures for the creation of the second isolate. In particular, it create the class object isolate inference and call the function start to create a new object of the class isolate inference. Inference camera frame, it take cares of creating the class object inference model. In particular, perform the opposite operation of the second isolate. First, create the class object receive port, connect the send port class object to the main isolator and the second isolated in order to make the communication. Opens a listener such that it waits for the response of the second isolate, because the second isolate, the classification model, returns its response, and returns as a result of the response sent by the second isolate to the main isolate. Okay, this is inference camera function, and close, of course. the app, the aim of the app is 1 minute, okay, to encourage the dissemination of art and culture using technologies. For example, in this application is for Lions. Do you know Lions Club? Okay, I am president of a zone of Lions, and I offer this kind of app. The user open the device camera to take a picture of the artworks, and he or she is viewing during the art visit. The user, while taking the photo, has the possibility in real time to read on the screen some information associated of the artwork, such as the name, the author, and all the database. The database is in cloud, okay? It's not in the mobile, obviously. Okay. It's in cloud, file store. You know file store. No SQL database. Conclusion: we use the Flutter and Dart to develop complex software integrating an artificial intelligence model due to the separate handling of the operation within the second isolate excellent execution performance of the classification model, of course, ensuring that is not loss of smoothness in the user interface. The quality of the classification is not our focus now, because depend on the goodness of the construction of the classification model and the adequate training. However, the few experiment performance and we found an accuracy of 93%. The final, just to conclude, the final size of the application, despite the package used and the presence of the classification model, is really small, about 70 megabytes. Finally, we note the advantage to writing the single source code. In fact, the application development and integration of the classification model is uniquely implementable for both target platform, iOS and Android. Thank you very much.
To the last presentation, but we have a bit delay. Okay, it's Daniela Oreni.
Hello, good morning. Can you see me? And can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
Daniela, we know how
Okay.
difficult it has been for you.
Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen. Only one moment.
Yes. Thank you.
Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect, because the connection is not so good, so I'm happy. Okay, good morning to everyone. I'm Daniela Oreni. I'm an architect and I am associate professor at Politecnico di Milano. My presentation is about drawing and geometrical interpretation of historical constructive elements for conservation activities. And I would like to show you a specific case study that are the 16th century coffered wooden ceilings and the fake vaults of a big villa that is named Villa Cicogni Mozzoni. And I would like to show you a little bit the history of this villa, just to explain, first of all, of course, where it is and all the different structural and constructive characteristics of this building. Because then I would like to focus especially on different structures, and in order to understand how we can use 3D data, 3D surveying data, in order to obtain knowledge about the structures and in order to understand the state of conservation of these structures. especially for conservation purposes, for conservation activities. So here you can see an image of the villa on the top of the slide and some images about the internal decoration of the different rooms of the villa. Only some information about the...
Sorry.
Yes?
We are seeing the first slide.
You cannot see the second one?
No,
Yes.
no.
It looks like
Maybe you
have to go in presentation mode.
No, maybe you are sharing the wrong screen. Do you have more screens? More displays?
No. Probably it's because of the connection. This is my... Okay.
No, now the presentation show the title of the presentation.
Yeah, but I'm in the third slide. Now can you see?
Se andava in presentazione, non stavo spiegando, sto incorretto.
Maybe you are sharing the wrong screen, in our opinion, on Jitsi.
Oh, that was.
You will see.
Can you see now?
Okay.
Because I can... Is it okay
Continue.
now?
Yes, you can continue, please. Thank you.
Okay, can you see now? Because I was in the third slide, so I don't know if it's a problem of my connection. Okay, so speaking about the villa it's located in the north of Italy, so we are very close to a small city that is named Varese, very close to the lake Maggiore Lake. It's between Lake Maggiore and Lake of Lugano, and in a very, very small country. And here you can see an 19th century map of the villa, in which you can recognize on the left side of the map the C shape of the villa and all the gardens around the villa. Villa Cicogni Mozzoni was constructed during the 15th century of the Duchy of Milan, and we are sure about the historical document. Probably instead of the villa in the past 15th century, there was an hunting lodge that was used by the Mozzoni family to hunt brown bears and wild boar, as you can see here in the image on the left side. We are sure that in the first half of the 16th century, the casino was enlarged and transformed, but we don't know exactly how they transformed this building, and we are not sure about the position.
Sorry, you are sharing the outline of the presentation. We now saw the slide number 2. Can you share the...
I'm sharing.
You need to move on Jitsi and disable the sharing screen and start again the sharing, because probably you choose the wrong window. Okay, thank you.
It's the only one.
Otherwise, you can just choose to share all the screen if you want.
Yes, I'm doing that. I don't know why. Probably because I'm using PowerPoint. Is it better to use PDF? I don't know.
Oh, please continue, otherwise we're going too much. Reshare your screen and try to complete.
Can you see now the fourth slide?
Yes, we see the fourth. Yeah,
Now
it's okay.
is it moving? Is it moving now?
No.
I don't know why.
Probably and now yes. So probably the connection is slow, but continue.
Yeah, probably it's because of the connection. Okay, so I apologize for that. So, okay, but we are sure that all around the villa during the 16th century, there were built a lot of different kind of gardens. And here you can see some images, some paintings, and especially the big stairs that there is and the fountain inside the building. But it was only from the last decade of the 17th century that some rooms of the ground floor were enriched with stucco decoration of the ceilings that culminate in the neoclassical addition at the end of the 18th century. And here on the right you can see a map, a representation of the ground floor of the villa in the first half of the 19th century. And here, this is the final version of the villa, as like you can see now if you go to visit the villa. So by the mid-19th century, the villa and its complex must have attained its present appearance. So here you can see the C shape of the villa, the rustic buildings all around the small square that is in front of the main entrance, the villa, and the small village all around the villa. Today, the building still belongs to the Ciconia Mozzoni family, who take care of it and that use the villa for cultural events and for wedding. But our work started in 2021, and we were called to survey the villa because at the moment they didn't have any survey, any complete survey of the villa. So our idea was to start from a 3D complete reconstruction of the villa using different instruments and different survey methodologies. Especially we started from the laser scanning of the external and the internal part of the villa using a 3D Faro scan, and we did more or less 60 scans of the villa. But we used also photogrammetry in order to gather information about the qualitative element of the external and the internal surfaces of the villa. And of course, we use also direct survey in order to complete all the metric information about especially the details of the villa. And here on the right side of the slide, you can see an image, the complete image about the ground floor of the villa. And as you can see, all the rooms of the ground plan of the villa, the ground room of the villa are completely covered by vault. Completely different the situation of the first floor, where all the rooms are covered by wooden ceilings, which were the purposes of the survey. First of all, of course, as usual, to obtain two-dimensional drawings of the villa, so plans and elevations in scale 1 to 50, because they wanted to have a very detailed survey of the villa in order to make analysis, in order to plan conservation activities, and so on. But secondary, to investigate, and so to use 3D data in order to investigate and to analyze the exact geometry of the structures. Understand exactly the wall thicknesses, the horizon systems, the connection between the structure and the perimeter masonry, and all the deformation that are present inside the different kind of structures, in order to evaluate exactly the state of conservation of each element. This purpose is fundamental, finally, also to recognize the most delicate and fragile structures, to investigate the state of conservation, and to plan restoration or consolidation work on the structures. Unfortunately, it was not possible to analyze, to have a view of an internal part of the structures. So, especially about the wooden floors and the vaulted ceilings, we started from the section obtained from the high difference, so from the introducts and the extraducts of the point clouds, and we made some construction hypotheses comparing also the information contained in the ancient manuals. We were lucky because in this case the family, Ciconia Mozzoni family, have a big archive of all the information about the work that were done on the building. So we were able to compare serving data, but also archival information and bibliographic information. But now, just to be very fast, because I lose the time, we were more focused about especially the wooden, the 16th century wooden ceilings that cover all the rooms at the first floor of the villa. Especially those are lacunar ceilings that are characterized by square and rectangular fields, as you can see in the drawing, defining a regular modular geometric partition. And especially the six rooms that you can see in the red square drawing are more or less 6 por 6 meters in size, and they are characterized by this kind of decoration. And we were also able to find this is a page of Sebastiano Serlio ancient manuals, very, very similar representation in historical manuals that can explain also better to us how they decide to use this kind of representation, because probably it was the fashion of that period, but also to understand better how they built and how the different elements are connected one to the other in order to obtain this final result. We try to analyze the structures from the extrados from the attic of the villa, and it was very, very complex because many different transformations occurred to the structures along the time, and because of the lacunar structures cover completely the structure and the internal structures of the building. But we were able to understand that the complex constructive solution that they adopted in the past was to use some real beams and some fake beams, as you can see in the drawing on the top on the right. So with the red color, you can see the real beam, and also in the vertical section, in the detail of the vertical section, and with the blue color, the fake beam that they built only in order to create the lacunar drawing of the ceiling. But analyzing the 3D model of the lacunar ceilings, we understood immediately that there were some problems, structural problems, because of the deformation. So in this case, it was particularly important to analyze the geometries, and the 3D model can explain better where the deformation were located inside the ceiling. Here you can see a sort of schema about the different deformation, and we were in presence of important deformation of more than 13 centimeter. And the thickness of the wooden ceiling was 15, not more than 15 centimeters. So a very important deformation. And in particular, then we focus on another structure, that is the covering system of the honor staircases that was built not late than 1550s. Why we know? Because in that date they completely decorated with frescoes the surfaces, so we are sure that they built the structures before. But it is visible that there are very important deformation in this vault. This is not a real vault. This is a wooden vault, so as we call it, a fake vault. And we did the same, and we used the same approach. So starting from the survey, the data survey, that then comparing the constructive solution with the ancient manuals, as you can see in the image on the right, and we try to understand better how the different elements are working now and how they worked inserted in the past, because we are sure that some movements occurred to the structures. And also in this case, we used the 3D model, especially the point clouds. And here on the right, you can see the important deformation of this vault. And we were able also cleaning and analyzing the point clouds to understand where the metal bar were inserted in the past. As you can see here, those vertical lines, in order to strengthen the behavior of the vault. But nowadays we can see a lot of cracks on the surface, the internal surface of the vault. So it was important, first of all, to understand the state of conservation of
Dai. Daniela?
the slide, you can see, you can recognize the metal bar that is inside the thickness, the very, very small thickness of the vault. And so probably we are sure that some movement or some structures or some hanging element is no more working. So that's why we have this kind of deformation and this kind of cracks on the surfaces. And we were able also to compare the actual situation with the past situation, comparing some old images about the vault. And here you can recognize also the metal bar and the situation of the fresco in the second half of the 20th century. So just to conclude, the accurate geometrical data, together with observation on the materials and their state of conservation, provided fundamental cognitive information regarding the building's construction history. The design choices made it in the past is fundamental to understand now what to do, but also the modification that have taken place over the century on the various construction elements, so the transformations. The geometric observation made it possible to identify the most delicate areas and structures on which the diagnostic, conservation, and consolidation project should focus. Especially, it's important for diagnostic questions, because sometimes we don't know exactly where to put diagnostic or where to make tests, diagnostic tests. And through an interactive method made up of data analysis, formulation of hypotheses, comparison with archived data, and then return to observation of the object and validation or modification of the construction hypothesis made, important data emerged to be used for the conservation project of these structures. Such a method and accurate cognitive approach is the only guarantee for a good conservation project, of course, in our point of view, from our point of view, on that knows how to maximize the existing and respectively accompany the structures that have come down to us. So thank you very much for your attention, and apologize for the problem of connection. So I hope that you had the possibility to see at the end the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniela. We have to close the session because they are waiting for us for the closing ceremony.
Okay, we have to close the session. So.
You did? I don't know. They was waiting for us because